I was born and raised in San Francisco. Yeah. In La Mission, that's where I'm from. Yeah. I went to a high school that doesn't exist anymore. That's really sad to say that. But at the time, it was called Woodrow Wilson High School in the southeast section of San Francisco. And one day, because of busing, the races got together that hadn't been together. We got the Italians from Visitation Valley. We got the African Americans from Hunters Point and Bayview. And we Latinos from the Mission. We were what was called the demilitarized zone. It was black, it was white, and it was us. And we were forced together. Because of that, there was rioting and racial violence. And one day at school, a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Norwegian kid walked up to me. He was a pastor's son, and he said that I was a chicken. Now, that term doesn't apply anymore. That's an old term that meant I wasn't manly, that I was a coward, and that if I really was a true leftist Marxist, like I claimed to be, that I would go to church and prove my anti-Christian sentiment was valid. Well, I told him, I said, look, I'm going, but I promise you this is what I'm going to see when I get there. There'll be a handful of old people in the front. The rest of the place will be empty. And they'll sing songs that people hadn't sung since dinosaurs roamed the earth. And when I arrived, I was absolutely right and felt vindicated. Until one exception to the rule, a small exception to the rule, a very dangerous exception to the rule. That night, of all nights, David Wilkerson's group came to the little Free Methodist church at the corner of Richland Avenue and Mission with 7 young men from New York City who had been delivered from heroin. Now, you know, the church has done such a wonderful job winning souls that today the church doesn't believe that to be nearly the miraculous event that we once thought. And in the day when I heard it, no one that I ever knew on heroin had ever gotten off. Not one. For me and anyone in my generation at that time, heroin was a sentence of death. Nobody got out. And one young Puerto Rican stood there, and with that New York accent, the New Yorican accent, began to describe the power of God in terms I had never heard before. And there is nothing, you see, we love the word revelation, even though we don't know what in the world it means. Some preacher will get up and say, I got a revelation. Most of them have a revelation, but no dictionary. The word revelation means to realize something that you had always known. It was always there, but you never saw it. And I had always heard Christianese spoken by Christians. And when a street voice began to describe the power of God, I had no armor for that. I had no defense. I had had no previous preparation for it. And then the bottom half of my body tried to get saved. My legs started moving toward the altar, but my upper body was still needing help, and it was gripping this old wooden pew for dear life. And then I heard a voice. And I thought, talk about audacity. The voice said, I want you to preach the gospel. See, what I didn't know, and you all need to hear, and why I'm pro-life. My mom escaped oppression in Nicaragua, came to San Francisco. She lived in wealth. Her family was rich. They owned incredible land, and it was all taken in the revolution. They escaped with their lives when she was just a teenager, and she ended up, when she went to church in Nicaragua, they bought her a new dress every Sunday, every single Sunday. Servants drove her to and from. She went from that to the ghetto of San Francisco, working for 10 cents an hour in the sweatshops. She'd already had my brother when I was now checking in. And the doctor says it's illegal, but you're in such impoverishment that you need to abort this second child. Instead, this teenage girl put the Bible on her belly every night, and she prayed and said, God, I want you to use this baby because I'm going to have it. Somebody, is that amazing? Yeah. She's an amazing woman. And my mom, just a few months ago, went to heaven at the age of 94. Raised 8 kids in the inner city. Amazing woman. Well, I didn't know she had prayed for me, just like many of you in this room do not know who has prayed for you. And you think you're going to be a successful atheist, but prayer, like a landmine, is about to blow it all up right in your face. I'm preaching right now. Yeah. So I was saved radically, totally, irreparably, dynamically saved. And Christ was more real to me than my next breath. And when I got up the next morning, 90 minutes early to go to school, a group of heroin addicts were what we used to call a shooting gallery. They had a sterno can and they were cooking heroin in spoons and injecting themselves, and they saw me and they got it in their mind that they had to kill me. Well, they didn't have guns, they had knives. So I'm walking to school freshly saved when this group of gangsters get around me to take my life. The night before, I'd learned one verse. I learned one Bible verse. You'll hear it in a moment. But it was the right one. Not that there's a wrong one, but this one was the right one. And I heard for the first time in my life, the voice of God said, I want you to preach the gospel. And that same voice said, I want you to put your hand over the little Gideon New Testament that fit right in my shirt. Put your hand over it. And yell that verse as loud as you can over and over and over again. So I did. Put my hand over my heart and I yelled, greater is he who is in me than he that is in the world. I'm going to try it again because some of you haven't gotten it yet. Greater is he who is in me than he that is in the world. To God be the glory.